A white hand took hold of the window. It was pure darkness and stillness around. The hunter of the night forced the window open, staring into the moonlit bedroom of its next victim. Too long did the creature go hungry. Its thirst for life itself too strong for mere mortals to even grasp. The house creaked and groaned in protest, only to be immediately shushed by the entity. Offended, the home burst one of its pipes to force its resident awake. Of course, the sentient building would immediately stop the leak. This was just to get him awake. The puppet on the bed rubbed his eyes in confusion. Sure, he slept with his eyes open occasionally, but he still felt the effects of sleep, such as dreaming and not really being there, and being confused when forced awake. The painter's tired eyes focused on the intruder standing on his window frame, like a white ghost with red glowing eyes. "Oh, hi, Amelia," said Wally, excited. "Is it my turn today?" "Silence!" barked the creature, before crawling into the bedroom and climbing on top of his bed and pinning him down, its teeth sinking into Wally's neck moments later. Welcome Home didn't have many holiday specials, especially since said specials weren't sold as such. For instance, there were 3 Halloween episodes, but because Halloween in the world of Welcome Home was called Spooky Night, it allowed the network to rerun them without any problems. Despite that, taking away from their initial specialness. Specifically, the Halloween specials were widely beloved episodes because they had a certain reoccurring character in them. You. Countess Amelia von Slurpenstein, a vampire noblewoman, and the titular villain of particularly all Halloween episodes, where you attempted to enthrall all of home to be your loyal servants and blood banks. You were a completely white humanoid puppet with long, white, thin hair that reached down to your ankles. You had red circles around the black dots in your felt eyes, and you were the only resident in home besides the monochrome gang who didn't have any rainbow colors anywhere on them. You usually wore a black gothic dress that beautifully flowed down your legs, making it look like you were floating when you simply walked on your tippy toes to great effect. Your tongue was a beautiful blood red, and the inside of your mouth was void black. 4 felt fangs, 2 on your lower and 2 on your upper jaw, completed the vampire aesthetic. You were impressive craftsmanship. But that was the show. In reality, you were but a normal puppet. You had no powers. You didn't even burn in the sunlight, even though you pretended like you did. But you certainly had the ego of a vampire, and the glamour. You enjoyed decadent things, such as drinking blood, which was actually just cherry lemonade without the fizz. Feast, made up of puppet flesh, which obviously it was not. And you love to enthrall singular villagers of home to do your bidding. And that's where the true genius of the puppets of home came in. The neighbors were friendly, welcoming even to you, and they accepted your personality flaws. And so they unanimously, each on their own, decided to play into your vampiric delusions. You quite literally could not hurt anyone with those felt teeth of yours, and just sucked on their necks for a bit, making slurping noises, and, well, apparently that worked. And after a few days of servitude, one member of the neighborhood would barge into your house with a bunch of garlic and save the poor unfortunate soul you had taken. For instance, if you took Eddie, Frank would almost immediately rush to your house, only held back by the simple 48-hour rule. Wally was often saved by Julie, and Julie very often was saved by Poppy, etc. It was fun. And your lack of creativity made the days of servitude not even that bad. After all, you didn't do much when you had a thrall, and your house was practically always in top form, except for your kitchen. Wally awoke in the small servants' quarters of your house. Yes, you may call it a mansion, you may call it a castle. As a matter of fact, once you even called it a Black Tower of Doom. But in reality it was just a normal house with a more gothic style on its outside. The guest room, being the servants' quarters, was decorated quite lovely. Despite you calling it the ugliest, filthiest room in your estate, it was likely just as Julie said. Let her think the room is gross and that it's torture to spend time in there. Better than the opposite, which would be her actively trying to make it bad. And we can all agree that would suck. The guest room had a relatively big bed, 2 black wooden chairs, a small round table to eat on, a clean red carpeted floor, and a huge TV with over 200 channels, 100 of which were all cooking related for some reason. Making your thralls wonder if you actually were a really good cook, secretly, as long as you believed you were cooking up the meat of a neighbor. With a soft smile, Wally entered your quote-unquote entrance hall, which in reality was just a corridor with some stairs leading up to your bedroom, as you slept in your attic, inside of a white wooden box with a mattress inside of it. In fact, this fake coffin, or just coffin as you called it, was so wide 2 puppets could easily fit and sleep inside of it. After all, you loved your creature comforts. Wally sat down on a stool in your entrance hall, grabbing one of the entertainment magazines Julie had brought one time, just so the neighbors had something to read while waiting for you to order them around. Oh well, just do anything when you couldn't think of anything better. Soon you appeared at the top of the stairs. With a smile, Wally turned on your old gramophone to play dramatic music. "I have awoken, servant," you said, nose held high up as you descended the stairs. "Is my breakfast ready?" Wally suppressed a chuckle. "Yes, mistress," he said, before leaning his head to the left, offering his throat to you. Amused, he watched you approach him, your long, slender fingers grabbing him by his arms, before placing your mouth on his neck. This was the fun part, really, even though he'd never admitted to anyone. Wally really liked this, and Wally really liked you. Your lips were so soft, not to mention your slurping tongue being quite agile, long and warm. It was basically getting a free sloppy kiss. He loved it. After 2 minutes of you rigorously sucking and slurping, you were satisfied. Stepping back, you looked down at Wally after climbing 2 of the stairs again. You were a little smaller than him, and as his mistress, you could not allow a servant to look down on you after all. "Now, servant, prepare second breakfast. I desire dog flesh. I shall retreat into the dining hall until you're done." "Yes, mistress," said Wally with a smile after bowing before you. Your dining hall was, well, just your living room, meaning you spent most of your time there. And by dog flesh, you obviously meant Barnaby B. Beagle's meat. And what was it in reality? What was the substitute for dog flesh? Since you didn't eat anyone in reality, it were cupcakes. Cupcakes with the same polka dot pattern as the dog puppet's pelt. They were quite delicious, actually. Howdy really did a good job with them. But as Wally opened your fridge, he noticed there was only a single one left. So grinning, he swiftly cut the cupcake in half, placing it on a plate for you while putting the other half back into the fridge. This was all to enact a plan he had been coming up with for weeks now. An idea, so to speak. Finally, your fridge was empty enough to go through with it. He put the plate before you in the living room, and you looked at it a little disgusted. "What is this?" you asked. "The rest of the dog meat we have." You looked at Wally disappointed. "Take it, servant." You were the living embodiment of, if I can't have a lot of something, I don't want it at all. In other words, you were really fun at parties. With an almost smug smirk, Wally left your dining hall with the half cupcake in hand. In your kitchen, he ate both halves before returning to your side. And yes, that had been his plan all along. You turned on the TV with a big frown on your lips. Your stomach was rumbling even after the beautiful blood feast. Wally entered. "What else should I bring you then, mistress?" Like an annoyed child, you just raised your head over your couch. "I want doggy," you muttered. Wally suppressed a chuckle. "Of course, mistress. Shall I go out and get some?" You scoffed and just retreated your head, returning your attention to the TV, which Wally took as a yes. Stepping outside your house, he was greeted by Julie, who was standing at your front yard gate. "Hey neighbor," she said, amused. "What dastardly deed do you have to do today?" Wally sighed with a smile. "We're all out of dog meat, and she really wants to eat Barnaby again." Julie chuckled. "Okay, head over to Howdy. I call him, so..." "Okay then, head over to Howdy then. I'll call him and let him know that you're coming." "Thanks, Julie." But just as Wally stepped past the gate, Julie once again called out to him. "Hey, when do you want to be saved?" Wally thought for a moment. Well, she's being upset at the lack of food." She nodded. "Got it. I'll ask again tomorrow." The last time you let Frank take Eddie while you were upset at something, you had actually put up a fight and punched Frank in the nose. Wally took a slightly longer road to Howdy by going over the park. He was considering inviting you out on a nightly exploration here, so you could enjoy the playground a little for once. He sat down at the fountain for a bit, enjoying the sun on himself and stretching. Man, such a beautiful morning. Besides, you need to give Howdy a bit of time to get the cupcakes ready. The food you got served was based off the people of home. For example, Poppy's meat was in reality just some chicken fillets that were served to you in different variations. And Julie, well, were various spaghetti meals. After a while, Wally felt recharged, up enough to finish his stroll to Howdy. The caterpillar was humming as he looked at the mini oven he was advertising on the counter. He always used it for baking because a demonstration of a product's quality was always better than just some empty words of advertisement. "Hey, old chap," said Howdy just as he pulled out the baking goods. "Was about to put the Barnaby cream on them. It'll just take a minute." "No problem, Howdy." The caterpillar was a champ for doing this for free. Though maybe he just enjoyed baking that much. He put the finished cupcakes on a tray and gently wrapped them in a thin layer of paper, before giving it to Wally, who was eyeing the chocolate bars Howdy had gotten yesterday. They were exotic mixes like spicy chocolate mousse and crunchy mango bits. Once he was no longer an unwilling servant of the night-stalking monstrosity that you were, he definitely needed to get one of these. With the tasty cupcakes in hand, he now made his way back to your house. After entering, he put them in the fridge, leaving only one on a plate, which he delivered to you. As expected, you are still in the dining hall. "There you are, servant. You took too long. 5 points minus." You said. That a little too loud. There actually was no point system. It was just something you said to sound a little more threatening, but it was a good way to measure your patience. Wally placed the cupcake on the table in front of you, and your facial expression immediately got brighter. You said, as you threw yourself on the table like a starved animal. Even your eyes turned completely black for a second, out of sheer hunger. And after only a few seconds, the plate was empty. There were no signs that there anything had ever been on. Thankfully, Wally remembered to remove the paper the cake was wrapped in. You purred as you lied back in your sofa, eyes closed happily. Do you require anything else of me, mistress? Wally knew exactly what would happen next. Because now that you had eaten, you basically were as tame as a kitten. Your hand snatched his wrist. While you couldn't turn into a bat, you couldn't drink blood, heck, you didn't even need to be invited into someone's home, you still had some vampiric strength in you. I want Cuddles, you oo-wooed, before pulling Wally into a vice grip around you. He hummed as you buried your head into his chest like a cat, holding him so tight it was almost difficult to breathe. But that was okay. He was used to it. Gently, he rubbed over your back. I desire more blood, servant, you purred. Wally blushed. Wait, since when did you need to suck blood twice? You leaned your head up, looking into his eyes. Your mouth was half open, your tongue sticking out. Wait. He blushed, realizing what was happening here. Slowly opening his mouth, accepting you. Your tongue rolled into him. He blushed, slowly opening his lips, accepting you. Your large tongue rolled into his mouth, passionately, almost lovingly. Your oversized organ wrapped around his like a salvia-covered tentacle, and his eyes rolled back in pure bliss. Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.